Good afternoon and welcome to All for United. This is the Pride of All Europe podcast. I've got some great guests with me today. Mark, how are we, pal?
Not too bad, mate. Yeah, got a negative COVID result this morning, which I'm happy about. But I was in contact with someone the other day, so I'm a little bit frustrated with that. But hey ho, I feel okay. Thanks, mate.
No worries, pal. No worries. Natalie, how are you?
I'm good, Ben. It's good to be on and happy you've asked me on.
Yeah, thank you for standing in the last minute, Natalie. I appreciate it. I really do. Alexi, how are you, fella?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to talking about the games and obviously Belgium-Portugal tonight. I cannot wait. That's going to be a proper.
That's a spicy one. That's a spicy one.
Alexi, just want to ask, have you got a halo over your head, mate?
It's because the window I'm next to, the blinds aren't very effective, so the sun just kind of comes straight through.
Halo. I don't believe it. Halo.
I am an angel, Mark.
Yeah, I have always thought myself to be a bit of an angel, so it does make sense.
Right, we'll crack on with it anyway. Denmark, well, Wales, Denmark, whichever way we want to put it, ended up 4-0 to Denmark. Bit disappointed with Wales, to be fair. I thought, like being a home nation, I thought, I'd love to see them in the quarterfinals, but it wasn't to be. Mark, I know you watched some of that game, pal. Were you disappointed on Wales? Did Wales maybe flatter to deceive a little bit, or have they found their ceiling there in the competition? This is as far as they was ever going to go.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I agree with you, actually, Benny. I see a lot of Welsh, Scottish, Irish that don't want to see England do well, but I'm like you, that like to see all the home nations do well and get somewhere. I think Wales were caught up in a bit of a fairy tale a little bit. I think that their true colours, and I don't mean this harshly, but I think their true colours showed a little bit yesterday. I think obviously they got, as I said, got caught up in the moment. They've got one or two, maybe three very good players, but unfortunately they didn't turn up yesterday. And you sort of read a few comments, Gareth Bale beforehand. Look, it's all right to get carried away with these things. England fans do it every year, but I think they did a little bit, and I think that they were caught off guard. Denmark are no mugs. After everything that happened in the first game, I kind of expected them to really do something. They got some very good quality players, and that showed yesterday. And look, it's unfortunate for Wales. But a very, very good result for Denmark, and that really will carry them into the next game, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. What you on the Gareth Bale one? What have you made of his tournament so far, though, Mark? Sticking with you, because I've not been really impressed with Bale, and I know his time at Tottenham wasn't too great until the latter stage of the season, where he did seem to pick up a little bit of form. What's your overall opinion on Gareth Bale at the minute? Because he's not the player he was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think probably even longer than 2 or 3 years ago. I think you're right. I think he was a bit unfortunate at Tottenham. You know how Mourinho is. He seems to hold back sort of a lot of these big players, sometimes with a bigger ego. By all accounts, Gareth Bale's got, he's quite a character in the dressing room. And I think he was just more unfortunate. I think there is obviously ability still there. I think you can see that. I think, we're very flippant to talk about how good he was in the very first game, or the game that they won. 2 assists, wasn't it, that he got? But then he obviously didn't perform yesterday, so it's very quick for us to sort of criticise that. But there's definitely ability there. He's getting a little bit older now. Obviously didn't turn up yesterday. But he's, I think most clubs would want him in their team in one way or another.
Absolutely. Natalie, moving on to you. Did you get to see any of the Wales match? And I know that you're a busy girl and you might have been out yesterday, but have you managed to catch up with any of the maybe the highlights of the game? And what was your thought on it?
I've seen the highlights, and I was out and about when it was happening, and I expected so much more from Wales. I was disappointed. Just like what you've said before, I think maybe we did get a bit caught up. The keeper's not exactly the best keeper. I'm not saying he made mistakes for the goals, but it is a kind of, apart from Bale, Ramsey, there are a lot of like championship players. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but they're not sort of probably the level of a, top level team. And then I think, Denmark have a lot of quality players there, and it's just shown that. And I think it's so hard for Wales. And I know that you know, other home nations don't support, but I think it's just because we support sort of. I just want to look for the best game and the best teams, and you know, Scotland, Wales, those kind of teams are sort of like the underdog teams. And I know they probably won't like me saying that, but it is true. Like, no one probably expected Wales to get out of the group, but they did, and they performed so well in the group that it made me think, well, yeah, they'll beat Denmark and they'll go be in the next round. But I think what happened with Denmark at the start, the first game, has really like galvanised them, and has really made them push ahead and sort of. I'm not saying that they're going to go all the way, but it's giving them that belief, like, this is why we're doing it. It's giving them, you know, we're doing it for our brother and everything that happened, you know. So, but they are a quality team as well. So I'm sure probably when they come up against France or something like that, yeah, people will expect them to lose. I'm sure they'll give it to the end. But, you know, I think it's like what Mark says, quality is shown till the end. But I am just disappointed that they didn't provide more. Wales. I expected them at least to score. And just watching it, they had the chances, you know. There's times when they should have, and so they should have, would have, could have. Obviously, it didn't work out. But I'm just surprised that, you know, they've been built on that defence, and they just sort of, as soon as it went 2, they just sort of fell apart, kind of thing. And that's what disappointed me. They just sort of let them just carry on scoring, rather than, you know, at least we're going out. But maybe let's not get. Still give the fans something to cheer about and be proud of, because, you know, that Italy game, they lost, but it was like, right, a valiant performance, fighting till the end. Whereas this, it just sort of seemed a bit, yeah, we've lost now and just all went away.
Yeah, absolutely. Alexei, on Denmark, though, they scored that first goal from Dolberg was a pretty special goal, in my opinion. I know he went and scored 2 goals in the game, but is that what the big difference was? The quality in the play, the quality in the players between both sets of teams. Because, as Nat's mentioned, no disrespect to Wales, I'm not making any disrespect to Wales at all, but their players are more maybe a championship ceiling, and a lot of these. Danish players, they're playing all across Europe in different various leagues, and playing European football week in, week out, a lot of them. Do you think that's where ultimately the difference was?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Denmark set up really tactically well to deal with Wales, because what they did, they set up with a back 3, which everyone thought was a bit weird, because obviously Wales only have 1 striker and more. But what they did is they just basically put Christensen kind of on Ramsey to kind of negate him. And yeah, the back 3 was really effective in negating the threats, because if you cut out, obviously, Ramsey, he's the main creative hub of their team, I guess, you're going to be much better for it. I mean, obviously, this is a Denmark team as well that didn't have Poulsen and obviously Eriksen playing after what happened to him and everything. But they looked really, really good. They have a lot of quality. You mentioned Dolberg. I thought he was outrageously good. I mean, his first goal was like world class, the way he curled it in. But I mean, it was pointed out to me yesterday, because I went for the classic, you know, are Denmark the dark horses now? And someone said they've been 11th or 12th ranked for the last few years. And they are just a really good football team. And then obviously, yeah, like, we probably think Wales are a bit better than they are, because I guess they're a home nation and all that. But yeah, it's the thing that basically, like Natalie alluded to, Wales have a lot of championship players, whereas Denmark have kind of some top tier footballers. I mean, you look at the midfields. Denmark had Delaney and Højbjerg. Wales had Morel and Joe Allen. I mean, Joe Allen, no disrespect to him, is getting on a bit. And, you know, he's even in his peak, he wasn't the most amazing footballer. But yeah, I think Wales played well for 10 minutes. First 10 minutes, they were really, really, really good. And I was thinking, oh, here we go. And then, yeah, they just got outclassed. And I think tactically outwitted as well.
Yeah, absolutely, mate, absolutely. Mark, I believe you've got a point to come back to. Sorry, mate, I just saw your private message, boy. What was your point, pal, you wanted to make, mate?
No, just that a bit like Scotland, really. They probably had one of the better squads that they've had for a while, and they're unfortunate to. I mean, they're Wales are fortunate to get through, I guess. Scotland were unfortunate to get through, to not get through. Sorry, and I think that they need to take this as a positive, and try to use that as a foundation to better that next time. You know, these are two clubs that 8 years ago probably wouldn't have, or didn't get into the European Championships, and they should really take this away as a positive. And as good as Denmark were, 4-0 was quite flattering in the end, I think. I think Wales had some really good opportunities, as Alexia alluded to. They started off really well, Wales, and 2 goals came in the last few minutes. So hopefully they can pick themselves up and use this as a springboard.
Absolutely, pal. On their second goal, Dolberg's second goal, especially Wales seemed to stop playing for that. They thought they was going to get the foul, stop playing, and it just begs the question: like, you play to the whistle. You always get taught from a young age to play to the whistle. But on a completely different topic, but still sticking with the referee decision, the red card for Harry Wilson. Was it a red card, Natalie? I don't know if you've got to see the challenge, but was it a red card?
Oh, the referee. I mean, the Wales, when they stop playing, for me, I hate that. That's the worst thing in football, when I hate. And then they go back and they say, oh, this foul. But the guy made a mistake anyway and sort of passed it to him. So I thought, you can't really talk about going back to this foul that happened. That's what sort of VAR's there. It was happened so long ago. You still made the mistake that led to the goal. So I hate when like clubs or managers complain like, oh, well, if you look at this phase of play, it's like you still need to, like you say, play to the whistle. But yeah, that red card. I mean, even the other red card that Wales got in the group game of that young, I don't know his name, but young mixed race lad, and he looked devastated, and that wasn't a red card for me either. A lot of these cards that we're seeing in the Euros at the minute, I just think there's the referees, some of them are just giving it out like it's candy, if anything. And I think the 2 that Wales have had are just ridiculous. We're seeing a lot of soft penalties, soft red card, just quick to get your card out. And I just think, maybe it's the kind of league that we're used to, and then other European teams are used to it different. So I think maybe sort of the home nations, or when we're watching games, we need to think like it's sort of that Champions League standard. When we used to say back in the day, that's a yellow in the Premier League, but it's a red in Europe. I think we need to get back to that. I mean, to be honest, I even watched it and I thought, I mean, obviously it was a bit later on, so maybe Ed had a talking to. Like I said, I didn't watch the whole game, but when I saw it, I just thought, you could even just give him a like, listen, mate, cut it out, stop it, not again. But yeah, for me, never a red.
Alexia, what did you think of the red, mate? Was it a red for you, or like Natalie, do you think it was never ever a red? Because I didn't think it was a red either.
No, I mean, I saw it in real time and just didn't think. I thought maybe a yellow, but it probably would be a yellow, but that's never a red card, is it? At all. I mean, absolutely crazy. I mean, and like, yeah, going back to what you guys were saying about the goal that they were complaining about, it reminded me so much of when we played Liverpool a couple of seasons ago. And I think, was it Lindelof fouled Origi? And then really early on, and then we went up pitch and scored later on. And it's like, kind of like you guys alluded to, there's only so much you can complain about foul when you don't defend properly anyway for the goal, and like they pass straight to them. But yeah, it reminds me a lot of that situation. But yeah, the red card, it wasn't a red card at all. And it just seemed so unnecessary. And I mean, I know they're 2 very different incidents, but Lloris literally like kind of Superman punched Danilo Pereira in the face.
That's true.
The other day. And that was a yellow. And then that Harry Wilson thing yesterday was a red. And I know they're different fouls, but if you look at them, like literally, you're seeing a man get punched in the face, or a kind of a mild tackle from behind. I don't know. It just seemed crazy. It also seemed a bit unnecessary when they were already like, were they 3 down at that point? And yeah, I think the refereeing started off well, but it's been appalling in the last few games.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's just the refereeing, especially over this last couple of games, last night was that with the VAR decision was absolutely shocked. Some of them were taking an absolute eternity. And would you believe it? In the Italy game, it was the English officials that were taking the absolute longest as well. It just seems that where's the English haven't matched this VAR very well, because even in the major tournaments, it's taken them forever to make a decision. Mark, I won't ask you about the red card because you have said that you didn't see it, but what have you made of VAR so far in this tournament? Because it's been working all right, to be honest with you. It's not been taking a million years to make a decision, but last night is maybe showing VAR up again by, the decision's taking an absolute eternity.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think VAR as a concept is a bad thing, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think whoever is officiating the game need to make those decisions quicker, and VAR actually throughout this whole tournament has been pretty good up until more recently, and I think that shows that really the Premier League are probably using it incorrectly, and they're probably reliant upon the officiating too much and for them to make a decision. I think we saw that again yesterday. So these things are there. It's still relatively new, and they need to be able to work on this. Yeah. And I think that showed yesterday, but it's been okay so far. For the first few games at least, first few rounds of games at least, I think everyone was sort of speaking very highly of it. They were really only using it if they absolutely needed to, if something wasn't quite right. And as I said, I think yesterday it was the officiating that probably made it a bit of a problem in that Italy game.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I just, you have to ask these sort of questions about VAR because it's a massive talking point. And on that, I will skip to the Italy game now. They beat Austria after 2-1 after extra time. They had no Cellini. Oh, mate, my pronunciation of players' names is awful, but he was out injured. And Italy didn't look the same team. Natalie, I don't know what you've seen in the game, but this wasn't the same team that we've seen in the group stage from the Italians. It wasn't the same sort of performance. So what did you make of it?
Yeah, obviously I was surprised that it went so long for them to score. And to be fair, Austria looked quite good. There was the, I think it was Alaba free kick, and I know they scored. And again, VAR took so long. It was clearly offside, but they did go ahead. Austria, I think Austria again, another good team. Like, that sort of like maybe in the Wales mold, but just better players. It sounds a bit, that kind of underdoggy kind of thing, but they did live up to the status, and obviously they got a goal back. I thought Donnarumma, I don't know if I said his name right, but he made a fantastic save that, I think quite a bit after they scored the second. I think it was after they scored the second, but he made a fantastic save. I think he's a quality keeper wherever he's going. But yeah, Italy, listen, it's at the group stage now. Obviously he didn't play Cellini, but, I think he'll be playing the next game. I don't know fully why he didn't play. I don't know if you know, Ben, or any of the guys know. I know he came sort of off for the third game in the group stage. So probably to save for this, but then again, maybe they thought it's not in our way. They thought Austria, do we need to play him? And obviously they got through anyway. But yeah, leaders on the pitch. We all talk about it. I talk about it for the women's team, how much you need a leader, how much a leader can change your game. When we got Bruno in for the men's team, United changed the game. Just think when you have like a personality or a person like that, it can lift all the players around them, and obviously that's probably why. But I'm glad that they got through it today. I think they'll be down as they're a nice team. It's a good team to watch. Obviously, maybe not this game wasn't the most entertaining for the neutrals, but usually they are a good team to watch, fighting for each other. The passing is amazing. So, I'm glad they got through.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in the group stages, they've been absolutely brilliant, Italy. Alexei, what did you make of Italy yesterday? Was it the missing of Chiellini, who's the captain, who's been an absolute rock at the back for Italy? Is that why they maybe was stuttering a little bit, or did Austria bring their absolute A game yesterday to try and break Italy up? And to be fair, Austria took them all the way to extra time, and Arnautovic had a goal rule out off for offside by VAR. What did you make of Austria's performance then altogether?
Yeah, I think Austria were really, really impressive, actually. And the thing is with Italy is before last night, they were the first team that hadn't really been properly challenged in the game yet, in the sense they hadn't played a game where it looked like they might lose, because obviously they've done so well in the others. But yeah, I think Austria held out really well. And obviously, even when they went, I think 2 down, wasn't it, in extra time, they still fought back. I think this Italy team, or teams who win tournaments, always have that game in a knockout where it's a bit like, oof, we're in trouble here. But they got through it. And obviously, I think the key thing in this is obviously the 5 substitution thing in extra time meant that obviously the team with the bigger squad or the better squad was always going to have an advantage. So Italy could bring on, some really brilliant players, whereas Austria's depth isn't as good as theirs. But yeah, I mean, I think Italy overall have been the team I've been most impressed by in the tournament. I think Austria were a lot better in this game than the other games I've seen them in, to be honest. I wasn't that impressed in the other games I watched them in, but yeah, I thought they'll go out of that game with their heads held high, Austria, because they really did well to hold out. I thought they were very, very resolute. But yeah, I think now you're kind of looking at Italy being one of the favourites, really, because I think you can always tell a team is, in with a big chance of winning a tournament when they grind out wins like this, where it looks like they're struggling. It's the same thing I would say with Premier League titles for club teams. It's the games where you're not too great but still win that kind of define you in the end as title winners. And yeah, they overcame the adversity and they got the win. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see them in the next round, which is going to be a very juicy game, I believe. If I'm looking at the draw rightly, I think isn't it Belgium or Portugal play Italy, I think?
Something like that, mate. I'm not 100% sure myself. Without looking at my chart, I don't even know my chart's gone, but I'm 100% sure myself, to be fair, on that one. But yeah, they'll play. I'm sure Mr. Mark Briggs knows. He's the man. He's the star.
Don't throw me under the bus, mate. I don't know either.
Well, that makes all of us then, eh? What was your thoughts of the game yesterday, Mark? If I come to you next, pal.
Yeah, I think Alexei made some really good points, actually. Austria, I thought, were fairly good. I think Italy have been one of the best teams, and I think they are probably still one of the dark horse, I think. And look, teams grind out results sometimes. Sometimes you're going to come up against games, that Austria are not known for probably playing as well as they did, and it probably caught Italy by surprise. And I think that sometimes you have to really work at your results, and that's exactly what they did. I think obviously they were fitter. They've got, I was talking about Italy a few weeks ago. Roberto Mancini is a manager I rate very highly, ex-City or not, and I think that they've got a very, very good squad of players. They'll be raring to make a point. They didn't get to the Euros 8 years ago, whenever it was, and they've sort of gone through a very difficult patch as a nation from a perspective in the last few years. So look, they're a good team. I don't think anybody wants to come up against them. However, saying that, credit to Austria, I think that they obviously played well, and I think that there are some weaknesses in the Italian team. I don't think that they were stuttering due to Chiellini not playing, but I think they probably, without him, lack that commanding centre-back that's going to keep them, clean sheet and that sort of thing. So, Italy got through. We kind of expected that. It's no sort of surprise. But I think that whilst you wouldn't want to get up against them, I think there probably are ways to beat them. But they're a good squad and they've got a great manager.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a good manager, Roberto Mancini. What he did at Man City, even I agree with ex-City. Yes, they do play Portugal or Belgium in the next round, so that's going to be even tasty again. I want to come off this one because everybody seems to be wanting to talk about today's games in the comments. I will talk about today's games, don't worry. Don't worry, Brown. I've got you covered, mate, on today's games. We'll start, and it's only fair that we start with the first game of the day, which is Holland, Czech Republic. Of course, the Czechs were in England's group, finished third in that group. But the Dutch won all three of their group games, finished top of the pops in their group. I'll stick with you, Mark. How impressed have you been with the Dutch? Because this is what I've got in my sort of work accumulator thing as my team to go on and win the Euros. So are we looking at a possible another dark horse outsider here in Holland? Because listen, mate, I've not seen any chink in their armour so far.
I don't think they've really been tested too much recently. Listen, yeah. I'm not taking it away from them. I think they've got some very great individual players, and I think that they are a good team. Let's not forget that they got to the final to just lose out to Portugal in the European Nations, whatever it's called. And I think that's obviously a good thing. I do have questions over Frank. I thought he was fantastic at Ajax. Didn't quite make it at Palace. Was it Palace? And I think there's still obviously questions over his head. But they do have good players. I think it's going to be their biggest test yet today. I like the Czechs. I think they've always, even in the last number of tournaments, been there or thereabouts. Probably not players such as Baros or Rosicky, that sort of thing, but have got some decent players. So I think it will be their biggest test today. So we'll really see how the Netherlands can cope with that. I think Memphis Depay is playing good, pretty well at the moment, and it's always good to see ex United players playing well, unless your name is Angel Di Maria or Carlos Tevez.
Absolutely. On Holland, Natalie, do we expect this to be straightforward for them all? Because the Czech Republic, obviously, are not a bad team themselves. Let's be fair. Can the Czechs maybe upset the apple cart and beat Holland? I mean, they did finish third in England's group, albeit I don't think there was, they didn't really set the world alight. So, or you all firmly in the Dutch camp?
Yeah, I know we were just talking about some underdog stories and about how Austria did better than everyone's expecting, but no, I'm 100% Dutch. I think the Dutch, they have got the weaknesses. I remember that the very first game, and it was like a 3-2 game, and who was that against? It was against like Uruguay or something. Not Uruguay, because that's a Ukraine it was against. That's the one that I watched, and that was absolutely stunning game. That was one of the best games for me so far. The Ukraine Holland game, that I was up and down, up and out my seat. So they will concede goals, but I just don't think Czech Republic, I don't even know who they're playing. I just don't think this team is that good as the Uruguay. I mean, maybe they will. Maybe they'll come out and surprise us and put some goals in. But I just think we've done Dumfries, and I think Memphis is doing really well. That was the very first game of the Dutch. I mean, to be fair to him, Wijnaldum doing fantastic, and I know he's not Liverpool anymore, but it does pain me to just say that, but he is doing really great things, and it's just good to see like young, talented, boys doing really well, and a lot of, like I said, Memphis, ex-United, you love to see it. Now he's playing in Barcelona. Hope he does well over there. For me, I think, and I know we're not talking about England, but that's what a bit of England missed. He's like, they're letting the young boys play and just go for it, expressing themselves. I like to see it. Like I said, they do have that weakness at the back. I think the Dutch, and I think they potentially will get exposed by a better team of France or I would say Germany, but not Germany. But, I do think they will get exposed. Maybe in Italy would beat them.
Germany aren't getting through the next round.
Maybe even if we played the Dutch, we might beat them. And that's why I say I do think they have the weakness there at the back. But I think they've got enough for this against these. I think they'll maybe even put 4 or 5 past them. I'll come back, someone will bite me in the bum and say, oh, you said they'd scored this and they only won by 1. But no, I just do expect a lot of goals, and I think it's going to be a good game. And then I know we're going to go on to the next game, and that will be a really tasty one.
Yeah, we'll get on to that in a second. I just want to get Alexi's thoughts on the Holland Czech Republic game. And I said yesterday when I had Chuky on, because I like Chuky, he always goes for the outsiders. So can the Czech Republic do this? Can they go and beat Holland? I just want a different perspective on something. Or are you firmly camped with Mark and Natalie with the Dutch?
To be fair, I've been surprised at how good they've been so far, but then they haven't played anyone that's that good, really, to be honest. Their downfall is going to be the fact that they have a really dreadful manager. Like, he is really appalling. There's been no evidence across his career that he can manage. And to be honest, I wouldn't be overly surprised if Czech Republic sat back like they did against England, just defended the whole game, sat quite deep, and nicked a goal. Like, I don't think that will happen. I think Holland are, in my mind, the favourites to win, obviously. But I equally wouldn't be surprised at all if I was sat there and Czech Republic scraped a 1-0 win. I really wouldn't be surprised at all. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't want to, bring it back to England all the time. But from an England point of view, I think I'd rather play Holland than Denmark, because obviously the way it goes, we would play Holland or Denmark, presumably in the semi-final, I think. And I think I'd rather play Holland than Denmark, just because Denmark have got a really well-organised team. They've got a good manager. The system's really good and innovative. Everyone knows what they're doing. But Holland, on the other hand, tactically are very, very naive, I think. And what we're seeing at the moment is probably more of a bounce from the Ronald Koeman era, rather than signifying Frank de Boer's managerial skills. I mean, I might be wrong. I've been wrong about them so far, but yeah, I think they probably will win, but 1-0, 2-1 or something. It's going to be a very, very tight game, because Czech Republic will sit deep like they did against England. And yeah, who knows? They could grind out a result, but I'm not massively impressed by them either, to be honest.
Right. Yeah, you're completely right then, mate. I don't think anyone's really been impressed with the Czech Republic. I expected a little bit more from them. But anyway, the big blockbuster that everybody wants to talk about, Belgium, Portugal. Belgium, obviously, top their group, won all three of their group games. Portugal finished third in the group of death, the so-called group of death. Ronaldo versus Lukaku for the Golden Boot. There's so many subplots here. Mark, where do we play this one, Swiggy, mate? This is the big one, this one. Until Tuesday's biggie, obviously.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one to watch, isn't it? I can't really call it. Look, one of my work colleagues is from Belgium, and it does my absolute nutting when we have the Euros and the World Cup, because he's just one of those typical fans that will sort of rub it in your face a little bit, especially when we lost the semis against them in the World Cup, the third place, playoff. But they are a very good team. I think that's obviously evident, especially going forward, especially in their midfield. But I don't think they've really had anyone to go at them. I think that I've said this on a previous show, I think their defence are an ageing defence. And I think if you've got the players such as Ronaldo, Bruno, I know he's not been, he's playing in the number 8 role, not his number 10, so he's not producing the numbers, but he's doing okay. But if you come up against those type of players, I think it could be another big test. I think that this is probably going to be a very high-scoring game. Even the Portuguese defence, Pepe, actually, I think I said the other day, he's got a lot of class about him. But I think if he comes up against the wrong players, such as Lukaku or Kevin De Bruyne, he can be caught out. So I think it's going to be a high-scoring game today, or at least I hope it is as a neutral. And I can't call it. I really can't. If I say Belgium, I think about the Portuguese attack, and that puts me in doubt. And it's same the other way. If I say Portugal, the Belgians are very, very strong. I think probably the Belgians really on paper will edge that.
Yeah, Ugly Bear said in the comments it's going to be decided on penalties, which could well be the way.
I don't disagree with that.
Natalie, I know. Obviously, I know you very, very well. I know you're a big Cristiano Ronaldo fan when he was at United. This guy's already top goal scorer of the Euros so far with 5 goals, 2 ahead of Lukaku's on 3 goals. One of them's going to go out tonight. The 2 arguably standout favourites for the Golden Boot. How would you assess Ronaldo's performances so far during this competition?
Taking it back, and throwing it back to the old, he's not throwing it back to anywhere, because he is, for me, the greatest player, GOAT, whatever. I know there's a debate all the time, Messi, Ronaldo, but for me, it's always Ronaldo. It's never been Messi. Not taking anything away from Messi. Messi is up there, but Messi is second, Ronaldo's first. So I'm not surprised he's still doing it. Who knows? He could still be doing it in the Euros next 4 years. I won't be surprised. That's how good he is. I'm disappointed that Bruno, but he has had a long season. I think they were right to drop him, to be fair. That might be the sort of motivation that he needs. He'll be sitting there thinking, I need to now play and show. But for me, like you said, it's Lukaku versus... I know it's not just this, but that's what all the hype is about. Lukaku versus Ronaldo, the 2 best for the Golden Boot. I actually can't wait. I agree with Ugly, but I don't think it's going to go down to penalties, but I do think it's going to go to extra time. I think it's going to be an absolutely high-scoring game. It's going to be like that France game. They score, we score 1, you score 1, end-to-end, counter-attacking football. I just think Lukaku, for me, I think... yes, it didn't work out at United, but he is one of the best strikers up there, to be honest, for me. I think, a lot of talk of Haaland and all that, but Lukaku is now doing it sort of, not the world stage, but, European stage. And I know it's not Haaland's fault or anything, but I do rate Lukaku up there as a top quality striker. Whatever happened at United, I do think, if you had to list 5 strikers, I'd put Lukaku as one of my 5. It's going to be, I'm just so excited. And like I said, I agree, both defences probably aren't that great, but I just do think that Belgium will edge it. But I think he'll edge it by 1 goal. And, I think it'll go to extra time. It's so hard to call, but I just think Belgium are the sort of one of the best and now. And I think they've been as top ranked team in the world for the longest period ever. So it's time for them now to really show this is why we're ranked number 1 in the world. But individual talent in the Belgian squad thrown together. Bruno, Ronaldo, turn it on, bang. Thanks for coming. We're through. Who knows? It's the one that, for me, out of all the draws, I'm most looking forward to this one. Even the England one, I'm most looking forward to this one than the England one.
Yeah, it's definitely a spicy one. Alexi, on Bruno, though, how have you summed up his Euros so far? For me, he looks a little bit shattered, man. I think I read somewhere if it goes all the way, if Portugal were to go all the way in this competition and Bruno will play some part, whether it's on the bench or from the starting lineup, they've played enough 90-odd games for club and country this season, which is a humongous amount of games. So does it really surprise you all that his form's maybe dropped off a bit of a cliff so far?
Well, I think, yeah, you're right. You're right in saying that, because I think he's played at this point about 85 games since last May or something, which is just ridiculous. I mean, you shouldn't be playing that amount of games physically. And I think it's different with Portugal as well, because at United, obviously, the team's more centred around him. But with Portugal, it's not, because of, obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo, Bernardo Silva, Jota are there as well. But I just think he's tired. A lot of people kind of reading too much into it, like, oh, why has he been so poor? But yeah, I just think he's been tired, which is understandable. He gets put on the wing sometimes, which is a bit strange as well. I've noticed. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really good game. One thing that shocked me about Portugal the most was coming into the tournament. I had the impression they were very good defensively, because they've always been they've had quite a conservative manager, and they've really grinded out their Nations League and the Euros wins. It's a lot of kind of 0-0 draws, 1-1 draws kind of thing. But then I watched Nelson Semedo and Diaz, and I was just shocked by how bad they are. I mean, Semedo, honestly, that was one of the worst displays I've seen by a right back. Like, no positional awareness at all. Really terrible. And then, yeah, with Belgium, kind of like Natalie said, they've been like ranked really highly for the last few years. I watched this documentary about Roberto Martinez the other day. It's really random, but it popped up on my thing, and it was just about how he's really kind of built them into like a footballing giant, you could say, because before he came in, they were still training at like the Anderlecht training ground. They didn't have any proper data infrastructure, but now, you know, they've got proper. They're being driven by data. They've got this thing called Project 2026, I think it's called. They're planning ahead, and yeah, he got them third in the World Cup, and they've been ranked number 1 in the world. And I think he's done a really underrated job, actually, Martinez. I really rate him. But yeah, kind of like what Natalie said and what you've all said is that they've been great for the last few years in the rankings and stuff like that. But Belgium need to win something, because this golden generation that they have, probably all of them together doesn't have another tournament in it now. Maybe one more World Cup, but this group of players together doesn't. So this is their chance to do it. And yeah, it's going to be such a fascinating game, though.
Absolutely, mate. You're right about that. Mark, coming to you, I will wrap up in a minute. I know it's got over half an hour. I did promise Mark half an hour, but Mark, coming to you, this golden generation tag, we're used to it as England fans or as English fans, as I'm sure most of us are. But we've had it before. This label of the golden generation, this tag where we had the Beckham, Gerrard, Lampard, Owen, Rooney, etc., etc. Do you think the tag maybe weighs down a little bit too heavy on Belgium as well, like it did England? Do people maybe expect a little too much from them? Or do you think this Belgium side has a little bit more than that England so-called golden generation had in terms of being together as a team? Whereas I think the England one, especially when you listen to people like Rio Ferdinand and Frank Lampard, there was always like divisions in the team. There'd be the Man United lot, the Chelsea lot, the Liverpool lot. But do you think that Belgium are a bit more equipped to deal with that sort of golden generation tag?
Yeah, I think they probably don't have the same sort of pressure. I think with regards to the media, I know that a lot of Belgian, talking to my colleague, as I said to you earlier, I think a lot of the Belgian newspapers have to come out with facts as opposed to rubbish stories. And we know what the papers are like in the UK. And I think that puts a huge lot of pressure onto England more so. I think actually, if you look at it, Belgium have probably done better with their golden generation as opposed to we did. And yeah, I think they probably only got one more left. I think Alexi's absolutely right. Listen, this is their chance, really. I can't. There aren't so many players coming through their academy or their youth system, at least, that might have a chance like their team currently does now. And I think that this is England's turn again. I think that actually, I disagree with you, Alexi. I don't rate Martinez at all. And I think his agent is an absolutely fantastic agent in order to get him the job there and, you know, be linked to Barcelona and that sort of thing. I think if they were to probably get a better manager, which is obviously a bit late now, then they might be able to do more with that. But I think this is going to be their last opportunity. And I think this is where sort of the England squad, again, we've spoken about this before, Benny, this really is a squad that should be better than anybody. And I think that we are probably hampered by our manager a little bit as well. So yes, in answer to your question, I think that there is a lot more pressure, but probably not so much on the Belgian squad or them as a nation.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I just thought I'd get that one in. But whilst Alexi quite rightly said about the golden generation, because it is a tag that we're all used to, as I said, that's always been sort of thrown at the England side. I'm going to wrap this up then. I'm going to get a couple of score predictions from you all. We'll start with the Holland Czech Republic one. I'll go around the table and then I'll end with the Belgium-Portugal one. So, Holland Czech Republic, I'll stick with you, Mark. What are we thinking?
I think it's going to be 1-1, actually. And I think the Dutch will go through after extra time.
No problem. Natalie?
5-1 to the Dutch.
Oh, Natalie. This is why I love having Natalie on here. Never sets on fence. Alexi.
I'm going to the opposite of that. Very, very, very boring 1-0 Holland win, I think.
1-0 Holland win. Well, I like that, mate. You know, you could be well right there. So we'll come to the blockbuster. I'll stick with you, Alexi. Belgium, Portugal, mate. Which way are we saying this is going to go?
Oh, it's going to be 3-3, and then
That's what I was going to say.
Portugal are going to win on penalties, I think.
3-3 Portugal going to win on penalties. I love it. I love it. That's a good one. Natalie.
It's a hard one. I'm going to go 4-3 Belgium, but it'll be extra time. So it won't happen in 90 minutes. It'll be extra time winner. Lukaku, probably.
Well, Lukaku. Oh, after being a big Ronaldo fan, it's because you got Lukaku.
Ronaldo, CR7, my ultimate go. I just think it's going to be Belgium are just going to have too much just right at the end, and that's why I think they'll only win by 1 goal. And obviously, the big man will step up and score it for them.
And Matt, finally with you, pal. Portugal. Are we going for a Portugal win, mate? Or are we sticking with Ronaldo and Bruno, or are we going to go Belgium?
Did you say Portuguese get through, Alexi?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go the opposite. I was going to say 3-3, so I'm going to go 3-3, but I think Belgium are going to win on penalties.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm loving some of these scorelines today. Usually everyone likes to sit on the fence, but Natalie, with a 5-1 now,
I just think Czech Republic are not that good. I do think they'll score, but I just think Dumfries, Wijnaldum, Depay, I just think they'll have too much.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm going to go for a 2-0 Holland win for the Czech Republic game and the Belgium-Portugal one, mate. My heart, I think Belgium could do it, but then again, I can't discount Ronaldo for some reason. He always pulls something out the bag. And Portugal, like they did when they won the Euros a few years ago, they struggled to stumble at that group stage, and they went all the way. And I just think Ronaldo's got this one last big tournament in him. And to be fair, he'll be in the next World Cup as well, no doubt. But this will probably be, arguably, maybe his last Euros. And I think he wants that goal scoring record outright as well, to be the greatest international goal scorer of all time. So I can see him doing it. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Portugal win. But I do think Lukaku will score, though, for them. Because as people have said, I don't think the Portuguese are absolutely that great at the back. They are aging. But it should be a really, really good game. But anyway, everybody get your bets on a 5-1 to Holland win. And thank Natalie later on if that does come true. Anyway, I'll wrap it up here because I did promise to mark it be half an hour. 47 minutes late, we're still rabbiting on.
That's fine.
But Mark, thank you very much for coming on today, pal. Alexi, thank you as well, mate, for coming on. And Natalie, thank you for stepping in at last minute. I really, really appreciate it, pal.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Great show, and thanks for having me on.
Good show, thanks.
Right, and I'm back tomorrow. The same time, 12 o'clock, with a hat trick of shows. So join myself then and guests for so we will review these games and see if Natalie is right on a 5-1 prediction.
Yeah.
So
shout me out if I am. Yeah.
Shout her out if she is. Yeah. So thank you very much to everybody, and we'll see you next time.